Let's cross live to Al Jazeera's Victoria Gatenby, who's here in Doha. We've been hearing about attacks underway right now in both Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. Victoria, what do we know about what's happening?
That's right. In the last few minutes, we have had reports of interceptions both in the UAE airspace and Bahrain. The UAE Ministry of Defence says in a statement that its air defences are now dealing with a missile threat. It warns people in that country to remain in a safe place and says the sounds heard in various parts of the country are the result of air defense systems intercepting ballistic missiles and fighter jets intercepting drones and other aerial vehicles. That comes off the back of a missile attack about 7 hours ago in Doha. That missile was intercepted. The threat level was raised for about half an hour. It's been lowered since that interception, and it has been quiet in Doha so far today, but clearly a great deal of concern about what's happening in the UAE and Bahrain at the moment.
Victoria, has there been any response from Gulf leaders to the statements that have been coming out from Iran's leadership today?
No statements off the back of Masoud Pezeshkian's statement earlier, in which he said that Iranian missiles and drones would no longer be targeting GCC countries. He apologized for those attacks over the past 8 days. We have had a statement from the foreign minister here in Doha. He's also the Prime Minister. He said, following a phone call with his Egyptian counterpart, that he stressed the need for an immediate halt to any escalatory actions, a return to the negotiating table, and efforts to contain the crisis in a way that preserves the security of the region. But he did not directly comment on the Iranian president's comments earlier today.
Al Jazeera's Victoria Gatenby reporting live from Doha. Victoria, many thanks indeed. Well, Israel's military has carried out an airborne operation that's dropped troops near the town of Nabitshit in Lebanon's eastern Bekaa Valley. In the past few days, heavy Israeli strikes on the area have killed more than 40 people. Residents and Hezbollah fighters fired on the troops as they moved on foot. The Israeli troops withdrew before leaving via helicopter. The strikes hit Nabitshit and nearby towns. Al Jazeera's Nour Odeh reports now from there in eastern Lebanon.
We are in Nabitshit, a town in eastern Lebanon. It was here on Friday night where an Israeli airborne operation was carried out. What you're seeing behind me was the center of the town, the main square of the town, now totally destroyed. Massive Israeli airstrikes came in. It just didn't target this area, but a number of areas in the town in an apparent attempt to allow Israeli troops who were operating inside the village to leave. Israeli troops reached the cemetery in the village of Nabitshit and they dug this hole that the Israeli militaries were looking for the remains of Ron Arad, an Israeli pilot who went missing in the 1980s, whose whereabouts are not known. Perhaps the Israeli military was acting on an intelligence tip and they believed that his remains were in the cemetery. This is Hezbollah's heartland. People here are supporters of the group. People here are members of the group. What they are telling us is that they will never find Ron Arad. As Israeli troops were trying to leave the cemetery, the people of the town engaged in direct combat with them. You can see visible signs of how fierce the exchange of fire was. Israeli troops withdrew under the cover of Israeli strikes. Before the Israeli operation began, evacuation orders were issued for this town, the Israeli military ordering people to leave. But it was just a few minutes after that order was issued that intense Israeli strikes targeted the town, and a family is under the rubble. More than 10 people were killed in this strike alone as people continue to search for body parts. So the feeling here was the Israeli military wanted to empty the village before that Israeli airborne operation begins. Nour Odeh, Al Jazeera, Nabitshit, Eastern Lebanon.
Let's bring you now some of the latest pictures of Iranian missile attacks on Israel. This is video of interceptions over Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories over the past few hours. Air defense systems in Israel were activated to contain projectiles over its territory. Let's take you now to Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Al Jazeera's Nour Odeh is there. So Iran has been hitting back. Nour, talk us through what's been happening in Israel today.
8 separate volleys, Adrian, from Iran, missiles targeting the coastal area, the larger Tel Aviv metropolitan area, and in some cases, the south. Of course, every time Tel Aviv is targeted or the coastal area is targeted, much of the occupied West Bank hears sirens from the illegal settlements there. Palestinians, of course, only knowing about it when they hear those sirens. We do not know the impact of those volleys because the Israeli military censor has not really cleared a lot of information for publication, but we understand there was some damage reported to property and a few people received medical attention from debris and flying objects where those areas were affected. This has been happening for 7 days, Adrian, and movement and daily life activities have been restricted. The government in Israel looking for ways to ease those restrictions. It just announced that those wanting to leave Israel on the planes carrying Israelis repatriated to the country can now do so with a suitcase. They could not do that in the past few days, but really very little in the way of returning to normal, more so in northern communities in Israel, Adrian, where the rockets, the drones from southern Lebanon have not stopped.
Al Jazeera's Nour Odeh reporting live from Ramallah and the occupied West Bank. Thanks indeed, Nour. A couple of minutes ago, we were talking to my colleague Victoria Gatenby, who's outside up on the roof here in Doha. She said it had been quiet here in Doha, which it has today, although we were reporting that Bahrain and the UAE were coming under missile fire in the last 30 minutes or so. While Nour was talking, some big booms could be heard overhead. The phones, the alarm went off again. The national security alert, which says the threat level is elevated. Everyone's required to remain indoors, refrain from going out, and stay away from windows and exposed areas in order to ensure public safety.